Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Silicon Global Show. It's our Ask a VC series. We have a bonanza in the next few weeks. We're going to have 3 shows almost in a row. And please tune in for that. And these programs also are on our YouTube channel at Silicon Global. We've done about 80 of these shows since COVID started, and you can check out all the people who've been on the show. Quite a few people all over the world, Israel, London, Shanghai, Beijing, Hong Kong, New York, Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, you name it, the heartland of the United States, Ohio, Illinois, many hubs. So it's been very interesting. So altogether, you could see about 80 of these VC chats that we have. And this is really based on a lot of the content that I do as an author and as a journalist. And I have written 5 books since 2008. And the next one is coming out in a few months. So that's very exciting. It's the new tech titans of China coming out. All right, so Sam, do you want to turn off your video, your camera, so we can get going with David here? All right, so today we have David Chen, who is the founder of AngelVest Group. I first met David in Shanghai many years ago, and we've stayed in touch. We reconnected recently in New York City, and that was a very good outcome because we got David for this show, and he's also spoken to our New York group live in New York. So 2 things in one. And now we have David here online, and he's going to answer our questions later on. So please prepare those. David is a very expert angel investor, venture type who likes tech. He's been involved in robotics, AI, mobile, internet deals. He knew Greater China, not doing mainland China so much now these days, like everyone else is not. But he's invested in a slew of deals, and we're going to be talking about some of those deals. He's got an investment banking background. He's also been involved in product tech development at AMD and Cirrus Logic. His first job was at Honda in Ohio, which is nearby my hometown area in Ohio. He's a Harvard Business grad and University of Rochester grad. So let's welcome David to the show. And as we just move along, I want to also broadcast that on August 13th, we're going to Pittsburgh with Catherine Mott of Blue Tree Capital. Pittsburgh is one of those happening areas with AI. And then we are back to the Valley on August 21 with a cross-border US-China investor. So August 21, August 13, and today, David Chen. So I'm going to stop the share now so we can hopefully all see one another. And thank you everyone for joining. So David and I will have a chat basically about his background and how he got into angel investing, lessons he's learned from it, what he hopes to apply to it in his new activities. And so David, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
Sure. Well, we met way back when I was still living in Shanghai, probably like a decade ago plus, I'm thinking, Rebecca.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we launched AngelVest as an interest group when I was there amongst our friends, right? American expats for the most part living in Shanghai and Beijing.
Right.
And it grew to be an organization of, I would say, about 100 members during its heyday. And we were doing like in-person meetings every month, doing these pitches and looking at deals and investing in companies. And we also launched a fund alongside that as well to really hold the interests of our members through a vehicle. And when I came back to the United States in 2018, the intention was to fly back and forth, which I did for a bit between New York and Shanghai. And then COVID came, right? So that made traveling almost impossible. Well, impossible, in fact, right? So having said that, I've kind of repositioned myself to be more U.S. focused, U.S. focused on the East Coast in particular, and beyond angel investing, because I felt during the time when we founded AngelVest, we were definitely pioneers, right? Because
Oh,
there is
yeah.
no such early stage investment group like us at the time, and then certainly in the time that we were in Shanghai, other groups came to be that were much more local, Chinese mainland local in flavor, right? And certainly the entire venture capital angel investment landscape has blossomed over the last 10 to 15 years, I would say, right? And for us, we've always been cross-border in nature because of our international perspectives and international backgrounds. And it was always some angle between China and the United States. And as I think about the opportunities of cross-border, they're still there, but I think obviously with the geopolitics between China and the United States, it has diminished significantly. So we're looking at a next area, which is really Southeast Asia focused, Singapore and Thailand, and the USA for a cross-border fund, which we're in the midst of crafting at this point.
I
Um,
see. Do you have a name for
uh,
that fund yet?
It'll be under the AngelVest brand, probably.
Oh, under the AngelVest brand. Okay.
Yeah,
And when do you
yeah.
think that will launch?
Probably later this year. Later this year
Okay, well,
is
that's
what we
good.
anticipate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll look forward to that. So what about Hong Kong? Are you going to include Hong Kong in that or not?
Well, I mean, even though we have geographic focus, we can look globally, which we did first time around. I mean, in our first fund, in our first kind of membership base, we looked at deals all over the world. So it was primarily Greater China, but we did a number of deals in the USA. We did a deal that had it for a while. Its headquarters in Shanghai. They moved their headquarters to Switzerland, and they're
Mm,
still active today, right? So we have some presence in Europe as well. I've been to Europe a number of times. Countries such as Estonia, I believe, have tremendous potential still, right, despite some of the challenges that we see in Eastern Europe in particular these days. But we want to be global. So to answer your question, Rebecca, Hong Kong certainly is on our radar always.
okay. So let's talk about some of your recent deals and what you're hoping to get out of these recent deals.
Well, I would say this because I've seen many deals. I've seen thousands, right? I've seen thousands of pitch decks. I've met thousands of entrepreneurs. We only invested in several dozen companies over the last 10 years. And my quick take is that, when you invest in companies, especially early stage, it's all about the founders, the people. And you never say to yourself, well, out of a portfolio of 10 companies,
Yeah,
these two or three are the winners and the rest are
yeah,
losers, right? You never say that. You believe that all have the potential to be winners and they come out on the other end with,
right,
fabulous exits. But you look at the law of numbers and that, typically is not the case where you have like a portfolio of 10 and you have eight, unicorns. That typically does not happen, right?
right.
So I wanted to flip that narrative around. And that's why a couple of years ago, we launched a venture studio to really nurture the founders and entrepreneurs and to help them think about their mission and their path and using entrepreneurship as a vehicle, as a framework to get to building products through companies and having those companies become highly valuable companies so their investors get to make money too. So I was trying to solve my own pain point along the way. And part of the process to do that was really to pick founders that are committed to their own authenticity and being on their own hero's journey, I want to say. And what that means is that they are open to discovery of themselves through consciousness and
Hmm.
mindfulness and techniques such
Hmm.
as meditation, as we discussed at your
Sure,
salon in New York
sure.
City a few months ago,
Hmm.
right? And I believe that is the essence of what makes us unique as humans, because with the advent of artificial intelligence, right? The question is, what really defines us? Where's our value as human beings relative to the machines? And it really is this notion of discovery of self and being authentic to ourselves and being authentic to the human mission, right?
Hmm.
And that is only done because we get to spend time to do introspection and reflection upon ourselves, our lives, and where we want to take that. And I think that the AI is meant to help, but is not meant to replace us, as many
Right,
people say these days in the marketplace.
right.
So our approach is really to take this framework of consciousness and tools such as meditation to help entrepreneurs use that as a toolkit to help them become better versions of themselves through authenticity. And then once they do that and they're committed to the path of entrepreneurship and building great companies, then we feel those companies become much more investable. And hopefully, out of a portfolio of 10 companies, I get to find eight unicorns versus two, right? That is my ambition.
So this gets you closer to them, actually, emotionally, psychologically, right? This whole process.
It gets us closer to them, but I think more importantly, it gets them closer to themselves.
Okay. So tell us about what kind of outcome you're having with this kind of approach. It's very unusual, uh, and
Well,
very
yes and no. I
original,
mean,
and
it's not prevalent, but I think if you go to Silicon Valley, for those of you who are there, I'm sure you'll run into a lot of entrepreneurs that are a bit mission focused, mission driven, and a lot of entrepreneurs throughout the course of history have used these techniques to really guide them. And obviously, people like Steve Jobs, and we all know who Steve Jobs was,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
some of us do know that he was deeply spiritual with his practice of Kriya Yoga and his favorite book called the Yogananda book of autobiography of a yogi, right? And they gave out that book during Steve's funeral, and Steve used that as a beacon, as a compass, so to speak, for his direction. It was said, and through that methodology, he was able to download from source or God or the universe, wherever you want to call it, products that eventually were launched by Apple and Pixar, right?
Hmm.
So I believe that if we're connected to source and we believe that there's a greater force out there, and I'm not religious, this is really about what the essence of truth is and our own human truth. If we can discover that through this notion of consciousness, then maybe we get to find clarity in our direction. Therefore, we build companies that end up being, that we're supposed to build that becomes large and valuable.
But you're still investing in tech, right? Often when you talk to entrepreneurs, they're just very much focused on their own technology and they can only talk about tech. So they're not talking about anything that's universal.
Well,
And
tech, the flavor of tech changes from era to era. Right now, we happen to be in the AI era,
yeah,
right? 20 years ago was the dot-com era, right? And whatever
right.
you want to call it. But I think tech is just a wave, and if you can ride that wave, wonderful. But the question is, are you the person or the team to ride that wave to bring that to some level of success? And you look at the dot-com space, and we look back in time historically. I mean, there was a dot-com you know, boom, and then there was dot-com bust, right? And think about all the companies that did not make it through the bust. And there's some companies that did make it spectacularly, like Amazon, right? And whatever pets.com, some other companies that did not make it, right? Same thing will happen here with AI. There'll be some companies that make it that become the behemoths of technology, and that's already happening. But in 5 years' time, the landscape will shift probably again. So the
Right.
question is, who's going to remain after 5 years? That's going to be around, and who's going to die, right?
So how do you filter this out? You said earlier on that you're in early stage startups, it's all about the founder, right? So then you're just focusing on, if you want to do AI, it's not so much the AI sector that they're in or segment that they're in, it's all about the founder. Am I reading too much into it, or how do
It's
you?
about it's about the founders. It's a match, right? It's a match between the founder and the industry. So AI is hot, great. How do we ride that wave? How do we find people that are appropriate to ride that wave and surf that wave and come out the other end, thriving versus crashing and burning, right?
Mhm.
So it's riding the wave. Certainly, we look at market size, we look at TAM, of course, and where that could go. But also importantly, who can ride that? If that's kind of in their DNA and in their purpose to ride. It could also be counterintuitive. It could be a sector that's not hot. I mean, coffee shops. I mean, Starbucks became obviously a very successful chain of coffee shops, right? And if you invest in something that's non-tech or even that's not popular, that gets to become a Starbucks, the question is that going to be a good investment? You can argue the answer could be yes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there was this bubble tea company that just went public in New York, I think, which is kind of interesting. But what are you investing in these days? Are you really just totally focused on AI stuff?
Well, we're looking at applications of AI. I mean, I think what's interesting is not AI in itself, but really how AI gets used, right? So AI for certain verticals, such as biopharma discovery, like drug discovery, right? And how AI will disrupt some of the processes to help these other verticals be more efficient and better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, way back, we invested in Hanson Robotics and they did the Sophia robot. And for a while, she was pretty popular back, whatever, 5, 6 years ago, right? But now the entire robotics market has evolved to the point where I think every other company is launching a robot of some sort, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, these humanoid robots are fascinating. The ones from Unitree and several other Chinese robotic companies. They've really gotten into it in a big way. So Sophia was the first kind of humanoid robot, right? And you invested in that company out of Hong Kong, out of the Hong Kong Science and Technology, and you brought it to the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, from what I remember.
Well, we invested when the company wasn't even in Asia. We invested when the company was still really a US company based in Texas. And it was through our investment that the founder was able to take the investment and move his operations to Hong Kong.
Mhm.
So in some ways, it was because of our investment that the company moved its base of operations to Hong Kong. And at that time, Sophia was not even created yet. It was only like maybe 2 years in that robot was created after we invested.
Mhm.
And what made that company or robotics at the time so different is because uh, the team put a personality around the robot to make her seem alive, right? Because she wasn't just this animatronic piece of hardware that could look nice and smile, but the team gave her personality. And because that she had the hardware, the very expressive hardware, and a bit of software to emulate human expressions and speak like a human, people people had the perception that she was actually alive, right? So it was a ways of kind of saying, well, here's a piece of hardware that could be human. It really isn't, but I mean, yeah, it's kind of like uh, showing that this technology could be something that could emulate a human being.
Yeah, it was really among the first, if not the first, humanoid robot.
It was the first humanoid robot that gained a lot of popularity, I would say. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember being on the road quite a bit with that robot and meeting people at press conferences and people were still pretty amazed, because there was, we were the only game in town, but certainly I think the market has caught up quite a bit these last
yeah,
5 years. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. So there were a couple questions. One question came in about whether you're investing in any agentic AI companies.
We're looking at them. We haven't done any yet, but we're looking. Yeah, I think agentic AI is also very interesting when you move AI from being a utility to an agent that can make decisions for you, then that breaks the efficiency curve in terms of what AI can actually do.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
And then there was another question. Robert had a question as whether your strategy includes AI applied to solving the energy crisis.
Well, it requires a lot of energy to generate AI, as we know, right? And that's why
Yeah,
you're building these massive, massive data centers and with all these NVIDIA chips that consume a lot
right,
of energy and water, of course.
right.
But whether AI can solve the energy crisis, I mean, that's I don't know the answer to that question, honestly. I think the energy crisis, as I see it, is a result of a lot of consumption, maybe perhaps overconsumption. But if there are other ways that we can look at ways to generate energy without the usage of fossil fuels or uh, you know, um, even traditional energy like solar, even or wind, that could become interesting. I'm interested in ways that we can generate energy without using traditional means. I want to say,
Okay. Are
yeah,
you still interested in robotics as a sector? Are you, because it seems to be a very hot area right now.
I am absolutely. I am. Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah.
Any deals in that area?
Um, Nothing in the humanoid robot market because those companies have become quite large now. And we're angels, right? We're writing small checks versus the
Okay,
large VC or private equity checks. But there are more, smaller non-humanoid robots that are more utilitarian based.
I see. So what do you have your eye on in technology today besides AI? What do you have your eye on?
I think, besides the technology, the question is how can we look at deal structuring? I mean, I think doing roll-ups is very interesting. I also think other ways to look at um, kind of early stage acquisitions and doing roll-ups is also super interesting, right? Because then you're taking businesses that have already been established with clear market and customer opportunities and taking them to find a strategy that's going to scale through acquisition versus kind of growing that organically. So I'm looking at that.
I see. So that's the strategy that one of the participants has right now. Uh, I think. So Sam, if you want to offer any comment about that, that might be a good opportunity
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, certainly. So we are seeing opportunities. Basically, our company, it's called Axle AI, and we help media teams search and manage large amounts of video content. But we're also seeing opportunities to acquire adjacent companies and then deliver our value into their customer sets. So
Mhm.
we're acquiring right now a customer base of about 500. Um, you know, it's kind of 2 million in ARR. But the more important thing is 500 new customers to sell to, which would otherwise take us a couple of years to reach that group. We can kind of acquire it quickly, and we're seeing that across our industry, which is the video industry, the sort of professional video broadcast, those
Mhm.
kinds of applications.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
So, I
great.
mean, whether it works or not, I'll know in a couple of years. But so far, so good.
All right. So we had a few more questions here about your venture studio, David. At what stage does the studio typically engage with a company, and for how long does that support last?
So there are different pockets of services that we're looking at. One is, I would say, more along the lines of education. So, in fact, this past week we launched our first cohort to really look at entrepreneurs and founders in particular to see how we can help them launch their companies and develop ideas through this framework of self-discovery and consciousness. So we're doing that. And my partners on the teaching team there are teaching about the science of consciousness and with a meditation that's tied to the business objectives. So what I'm teaching is really about um, how do you craft a better pitch? How do you become more fundable? How do you think about the nuts and bolts of scalability through strategy and finance, et cetera? But I'm teaching it through the case method. So that means people need to read a case, and then we have a case conversation, much like what I did when I was back in business school. So I feel that it's a much more engaging way of learning, and I think people get more out of that by participating in that case conversation.
Mhm.
So that was this past week, and that's run under the Venture Studio. The other part of the Venture Studio really is about helping companies that are a bit more sizable to scale. So if companies that have some revenue and cash flow, and the pain point is that they need more market penetration or more scalability, and they need execution help, then we parachute in interim or fractional C-level people, CMOs, CFOs, COOs, to kind of take part of those companies temporarily to help them do execution and get to the exit, right? So that's the other piece of the business that we're also looking at as part of the Venture Studio service. The third part really is to help people on the super early stage side of things and with universities in particular, because I live in Princeton and Princeton University is an amazing research university that is coming out with new ideas that are just out of the box. And the question is, how do we partner with professors and researchers out of schools such as Princeton, Harvard, Yale, et cetera, to see if we can leverage some of that research and to see how we can productize some of that. And typically, these professors wouldn't want to leave their positions as faculty from these schools, but they would need help and partners to help them turn those ideas into companies, and that's where we can play a role as a venture studio.
Yeah, that's great, I think. I was just at a Stanford forum this past weekend, and they had all these scholars from various labs and courses, and it was not just Stanford, but there were others involved as well. Harvard, I was pretty much Ivy League, but it just struck me that what you're doing is very much needed because they have to get out of the academic world. They have to get out of academia and get into, yeah, if they're going to build a business, they have to have a different frame of
Well,
mind.
Stanford definitely is a leader because, the school's got scale, the school's got great innovation, it's got
Yeah,
a great brand, right? And it's
yeah,
built an ecosystem of launching companies out of the school. And they've done a great job of marketing that, right? I think
that's true.
MIT also does a great job. I know
Yeah,
Harvard was behind like 10, 12 years ago, and then they launched the innovation lab, iLab. And then, Harvard has definitely caught up. But when I go back to campus, I can see entrepreneurship flourishing everywhere, which is very
mhm,
different than it was from 10 years ago.
yeah,
And I see other schools that, have, tremendous credibility and resources, places such as Princeton or Penn or, any other schools that have, great research. There definitely is opportunity to kind of take that and to turn that into commercializable opportunities such as companies.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So there was another question about the size of the check that you're writing. What's the average size check that you're,
So historically, we've written checks because of our membership base anywhere from 50K to upwards of over 500,000. The largest deal we did was like over $800,000 back in the day. And we would take interest from our membership base to see who would want to participate. And then our fund would also participate with some money as well. So it just depends case by case. But obviously, if we're writing smaller checks, then we would also want to see that other investors, not just ourselves, are also putting in money to make sure that the company raises enough money to get to its next milestone, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, if we're the only check for like whatever 50K or 100K, then that doesn't
Yeah,
really move the needle, unfortunately.
yeah. How has your membership base changed, given geopolitics and the movement of people?
It has changed because we were launched as an expat interest group out of Greater China, right? But since COVID, I think a lot of people have left China, and we have now kind of gone to different places or have gone back to our home countries. But having said that, the model of a membership kind of based organization I still think has a lot of merit. And part of the goal for me moving forward this year, next, is to kind of reestablish that membership base and to see if we can look at some deals that become interesting for individuals that hopefully can have a shorter time horizon to exit. Because the other challenge that we all have as early stage investors, that time to exit typically is long. And if there are ways that I can shorten that, right, I think that would be attractive for a lot of investors.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think New York is a good place to be for that. As I know that so many of the expats from China have come to New York. Well, there's several to Silicon Valley too, but New York is no shortage of them. So it's a good spot to be. And the entrepreneurial community is also changed. So it's not just the
Yeah,
investor side, it's the entrepreneur side too.
sure. New York is vibrant, but the fundamentals I feel of investing, right? I see investing and entrepreneurship as two sides of the same coin. And if we're investing, then we try to put in terms and conditions that are favorable to us as investors. But as entrepreneurs, I mean, they got to think about, well, how can we help our investors exit, right? Even exiting by SPAC, that was popular for the last couple of years, and we had two deals that came out through a SPAC back in December of 2024. And very soon afterwards, the stock price of those SPACs kind of came down significantly. So yeah, I have to wonder, even if there's a SPAC exit through IPO, even is that even viable, these days? So
Yeah, because it's all about whether they can be sustained, right?
yeah.
And increase. That's really interesting. Okay. So there's a question about what do you think about the current China market and do you think it's recovering at all? That's from Rose.
I think that the US and China are on two parallel paths, right? I mean, despite what we see in the geopolitics, I mean, the China market is still huge. It's a very, very big market with a lot of consumers, right? And I think that despite the the challenges geopolitically, still going to see a lot of opportunities in China. But the question is whether U.S. investors feel comfortable investing in China. It's less so now than it was 5 years ago, certainly, right? So I think what's going to happen is that you'll find parallel tracks of technologies emerging from each of these countries and their own set of investors too.
Right, right. Yeah, it's an active highway, I think. All right, another question about your due diligence process and how long it typically takes, and what does it look like? How do you manage it? And I had a question too about, do all the members vote on a deal, or they have to all come together, or can they do it individually?
They can do it individually, and the advantage of the group that we had was that we shared information, we shared due diligence process, we
Mhm.
shared data that we discover about the company or the people, and our process really would be a mini version of what a lot of VCs may do already, which is you look at the market size, you look at the technology, you look at what advantages, competitive advantages there may be, especially if it's tech related. We look at customer traction, if any, right? We look at the go-to-market strategy, but most importantly, we look at the people. Yeah, and that's what, for a while, I think we kind of put that as priority number 2 or 3. But as I think about all the deals that I've seen and all the deals that I've done, it really boils down to the people who are going to be driving the ship and to make sure they have the stamina and the toolkit, the tools to be able to navigate that path, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and making it to the other side, which is the exit for me as their investor, right? I think it's too easy for people to say, hey, this is just too hard. I can't do this anymore. And they'll just give up. And
Right.
then they lose, but we lose too, right? So that's why I go back to this notion of purpose. If they believe that this is their purpose and that this is their mission, then they'll have a better chance of sticking with it and they won't give up as easily.
Yeah, I think that's a good premise. And when you see a founder who is struggling, what do you do? How do you know when to step in? How do you know just to stay away? How do you judge that?
Well, historically, we tried to be as hands-on as we could. And part of the role ends up being more advisory than actually doing execution.
Okay.
But I think it's all about looking at metrics and whether, the metrics, how they trend over the course of time. You look at the financials, you look at customer traction, if it's appropriate. You look at tech development, what milestones have they made if they haven't launched anything yet, right? Ideally now, I'm more of the flavor that they've got to have some sort of MVP, and something that they've built that they can kind of turn into something that they could scale as a product,
Uh-huh.
right? And then ideally, what is the go-to-market? How do you sell? How do you take that and get paid customers for their stuff, right? And then you track that over the course of time, ideally every month, and you see, how the numbers look, and you look at the trends. Now, it's kind of hard because a lot of entrepreneurs don't have time to do reporting, and part of it is getting the information from them that is, that we can actually use and say, hey, here's some issues, here's where we can help.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the role of groups like yours today? It seems that the venture landscape has changed quite a lot. Family offices and individual investors are becoming more important. What is the place for angel investing today?
Well, I think family offices are playing a greater role in all of this. And if you look at some of the numbers out there, venture capital, private equity, if you look at the AUM, it's like $3 to $4 trillion. And if you look at family offices, it's like $11 trillion, right? So I think if you look at the amount of capital under management by some of these family offices, they certainly do eclipse venture capital, private equity. The question is, what role do they play? Can they play to really make a difference and, even support and or supplant the VCs or angels such as myself. But I feel that, a lot of the people in family office space are reliant upon funds. They typically invest in funds and third-party providers to kind of do the execution. Whereas people like me and people whom I know who are in the angel space tend to be very hands-on. We roll up our sleeves and we get very involved in terms of doing the diligence and also post-investment getting involved with the companies where we can to add value. So I
Okay.
think that experience I think is invaluable from what I've seen for myself and people that I know who are active angel investors.
Okay. So there's another question here about VC, how difficult it is to get things right. And how could the industry strive to be more consistent in its returns, and what can be done to fix things? And how do you invest to maximize the chance of getting a home run?
Well, that's a question that every investor should be asking themselves, right? And I would say that if you look at the research, the data, right, you'll find that most venture firms don't produce positive returns for their LPs, for their investors.
Yeah.
And that's based on research that one of my former professors from Harvard presented during one of my reunions several years ago. He talked about the returns of venture capital, private equity, venture in particular, and how most venture firms, venture funds don't produce positive returns for the LPs, which is surprising, but not surprising, I guess, right? So the question is, how do you pick the winners? And if you're a direct investor, if you're a GP, if you're a fund, how do you pick the right companies to invest in? And I believe it goes back to the people, the founders, right? And certainly I think people say, well, it's always better to be lucky than good. And sure, the question is, how do you quantify luck? How do you get luckier, right? And I'll throw out a new concept, or not new, but I mean, a slightly controversial concept, which is that we all know the notion of startups, right? We're meant to grind. And, as entrepreneurs, it's 24/7, you're grinding away. And obviously that causes a lot of physical and mental stress, and it's a toll on, for anybody that's in that position.
Right.
And I'm trying to change that narrative. And I think that if you want to do a startup, it's super hard. And you want to do it because you love it and you believe that you can make a difference and you believe that you can change the world through your startup.
Right.
And if it becomes something that is mission driven, then it's not work, then it becomes play. So if it's play, then the question is it really going to be grind, or is it going to be something called flow, right? So I want to change the notion that startups are a grind, and I want to turn this into a notion that startups, for the successful founders, it's going to be flowing. They're going to be able to flow to their success. So that's why I bring in this notion of consciousness and meditation, because I think that's the way to get into flow. And if you're into flow, then you will get to where you're supposed to go with your startup, actually. So back to the question about producing returns, you want to find founders that can adopt this methodology, and hopefully through this approach, they can be like Steve Jobs and find their unicorn.
Okay, well said. All right. We all need to find our flow. How many here have done that on this Zoom? No, I like that. Find your purpose, and there's a lot less stress if you can go with the flow. And okay, here's Rose coming in, talking about luck. Astrology apps are growing super fast in China amongst the young generation, even backed by Tencent. That's an interesting comment. I didn't know that, and interesting to know. Okay, David, maybe that's a
I'll just
particular
comment that
prospect
being,
for you.
if you look at astrology, I was never quite believing this. If you look behind it all, there are definitely some science there. Look at the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching.
Yeah,
Right? Or if you look at the Kabbalah and the Akashic records and things of that sort, I mean, these are all methodologies that we can tap into to get to answers. And if there's a methodology that you can look into that gets you to the answer faster, and therefore increase your luck, even feng shui, it's a version
yeah,
of, well, how do you place stuff around your house to have better luck? Well, if you can do that, and if there's like real science, real evidence behind this and gets you there faster, well, then
yeah.
sure. I think that's something that I think is interesting to look at, I would say.
Yeah. So some people think that they're really lucky. And, you know, I think it's really a lot about the mindset of how you approach things, how you look at things, whether you're lucky or not. It's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of how you look at things. And if you're able to, um, see things through, you know, in a positive way, instead of looking at things like a roadblock, you know, because I actually consider myself very lucky, and I'm constantly seeing things that go my way, and oh wow, another thing, okay, chalk that one up, chalk that one up.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but I think it's also because I stay very positive. So it's a lot of the mental outlook, I think. And credit to you, David. So what about this retreat that you might have up in your Delaware area? You
Yeah, we have 80 acres of land, and when I came back from China, my goal was to do something with that land. It's been in my family for a long time, and
yeah,
we thought about a retreat for entrepreneurs and founders where we can go and spend time, maybe a weekend or a week, and be in nature and hug trees. And it's kind of like a spiritual retreat for entrepreneurs, and that's become very popular, Rebecca. I mean, you look at all these type entrepreneurs, and they go into like Tulum, Mexico, or Costa Rica, and other
yeah,
places to kind of do to get away, but
right.
also it's a ways to kind of tap into themselves, right, and taking care of themselves, but also tapping into some answers from nature. So we want to do this as well because we have the land. It's 2 hours outside of New York City, and there are plans underway to kind of turn this into a space for entrepreneurs, and it may end up being a bit of real estate as well, because if we end up selling high-end houses there as part of that, then that could be an idea that we want to put into execution.
Yeah. High-end houses for entrepreneurs to create their startups in. They all live together.
Well,
Yeah,
as a community, and we want to eventually get off grid. We want to have our own organic farm. We want to do all these things that are also with nature. I want to, that's why I'm also fascinated with new ways of energy generation
sure.
and even frequency generators. I mean, the frequency generators out there that move your cells in a certain way to kind of increase your vibration and make you healthier, right? And
Mhm.
if we use that kind of technology just to kind of get yourself into flow, then maybe that'll give you ideas for the next $1 billion product.
Okay. So do you have any imitators yet, David?
Well, there are variations of what we do out there as I kind of talk with people and get in touch. I mean, a lot of what I have been saying does resonate with people that I meet at various conferences and events. And I think this new era that we're in, it's this notion of collaboration. How do we find, people that we get along with and resonate and find ways to work together to build something versus a highly competitive environment, which is what we see typically in startup land, right? So I think this notion of massive collaboration and building scale through community is a
Mm-hmm.
way that we can do this that will really kind of change the mindset of how we do
Mm-hmm.
startups and investing too, for that matter.
Okay. All right. Anyone with a question? Lawrence, do you have a question? Hal Kelman, you've been kind of quiet.
No,
No,
my
I
question was
I
answered.
hear with patience and learn from everybody. Yeah, I was reading the profile, and then the Hanson Robotics logo pops up, and right at that time, Rebecca, you are the host. You jumped the queue, and then there was the question I was trying to ask about Hanson Robotics. So if you see David Hanson again, say hello to him from Invest Hong Kong. We kind
Hmm.
of worked with him when he first landed in Hong Kong.
Sure.
Yes, that's right. Are you with MS Hong Kong, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco. So Rebecca
Okay.
has been working with us, collaborating, partnering. So she is a strong supporter of Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong is great.
Yeah,
I met recently some of your colleagues in New York City,
Yeah,
but Hong Kong is great. Yeah, Hong Kong is a great environment to support startups, I feel.
thanks.
we know Macy Ho in New York City
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office. So right now I'm working with Cyberport on their annual venture capital forum. And
right, right. Actually, we will host a networking event, come seminar tomorrow in our office. If Rebecca, you have time, are you in San Francisco or somewhere else?
I'm in Burlingame.
Yeah, welcome to join us. I will see you there. So I will, after the event, after this session, I will send you the details.
Okay, so it's tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, tomorrow. So we'll
Okay.
be receiving the Cyberport delegation.
All right. So, well, before, okay, thank you very much. And anyone else, I imagine, who has signed on from San Francisco would be welcome too, right? Right, Lawrence?
Yeah, yeah. Please
Okay.
contact me. Right.
Okay, so a couple more questions before we sign off. All right. Oh, here's David saying exactly how to get a hold of him. It's in the chat. So there you go. And a very good question here. Is it really feasible to do VC in New York City, or does one really need to be in San Francisco?
Well, I feel like you do VC anywhere because, everybody is trying to raise money from somewhere in the world, right? I mean, I get people send me stuff all the time from like Pakistan or whatever, Ukraine or other parts of the world. And, when you're raising money, it's like you leave no stone unturned, right? And I think New York City in particular has a very, very vibrant community of startups, but also investors, right? And especially now that I observe in the family office space, I go to a number of these family office events, which you do as well, Rebecca, right? And very active. So it's just a matter of having your own thesis, your own strategy, and having your own approach to doing investing, whether it's venture or angel investing, and having a proposition to make money for your LPs, your limited partners.
Yeah. How do you source your deals, David?
It's just word of mouth. We haven't really done any marketing whatsoever. For this next one, obviously, we probably will need to do some. But
Okay.
I mean, I do nothing, and people just send me stuff all the time. And sometimes I don't have time to even respond to these people, honestly. So it's my bad because I don't have the bandwidth currently. But
Yeah.
ultimately, as we have more of a team that we can bring on board, then we'll be able to kind of put that machine to work. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Well, that would be good for the whole community.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, so we welcome that, and good luck on your next fund. And so we will hopefully hear more about it as things progress. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are having a VC bonanza. I'm calling it a bonanza because we got 3 VCs in a row. August 13, we go to Pittsburgh. And we have an angel investor in Pittsburgh who's been very active in the community and helping the Pittsburgh community to grow. Then we go back to Silicon Valley, a cross-border investor very early on and still very active. And that's going to be August 21. So please stay tuned to that. Since you're on this program today, you'll get the information about these next ones. And really do appreciate everyone joining today. And thank you, David, for making time from your busy schedule. We're all very busy. There ought to be something that helps us all to automate all of these tasks of going through email and just keeping up with the news.
Well, you make your own robot and you place your own consciousness into that robot and you have a replica of yourself,
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've met some people who are trying to replicate themselves through AI. And yeah, so it's a little scary, I think. But not for me, I don't think. Anyhow, maybe for you, David.
Yeah, if I could have 10 of me to kind of help me
10 of
execute
you.
and make decisions, then that would kind of make my life a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, okay. Well, thank you very much. And we'll see you again, everyone. Take care. Have a good evening or a good
Thanks.
morning if you chimed in from Hong Kong. I know there were some from Hong Kong too. All right. And thank you, Invest Hong Kong, for your support of this series. And we'll keep you posted on the next ones as well. All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.